It's Local Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance in Los Angeles today, joined by Mitch O'Farrell. He was just reelected to a second term on the Los Angeles City Council. Congratulations.
Thanks,
a tremendous victory. Talk to us about the victory. It's your second term. Incumbents did quite well in Los Angeles, including the mayor, who romped with 80%. You did pretty well with 60%.
Yeah.
What does this tell you?
I'm very proud of the victory. My team has worked so hard over the last 3 years and 8 months since I've been in office. So we had a record of success to run on, and then we put a campaign together to tell the narrative, and it was a winning narrative, and I knew that. I did have 5 opponents,
Right.
and so that's a lot. And when you have 5 opponents, you have to work extra hard to make sure that voters understand your accomplishments and your viewpoints.
Right. And what's so interesting about the 13th, your district, it's a pretty activist district,
Yes.
you know, with Silver Lake kind of as its hub. And so, you know, in other districts, you don't see a lot of civic engagement, but in yours, I mean, everyone's involved.
Right.
So that's a blessing and a curse
Yeah.
for a council member, I guess.
I mean, overall, the 13th district is very, very progressive on many, many issues. But it's also the most diverse district. You have 100 languages spoken, various religions, various beliefs, and various issues that are important in small segmented populations.
Right.
And so to stitch all of that together and have a message that really, so people understand that you are there for everyone, regardless of who they are, where they're from, what
Right.
language they speak. And I think that's the point that we have to constantly make, that their interests are my interests.
I want to talk about the diversity of your district, because it's hard to deny that the administration in Washington has spoken in a way that is inflammatory to those that may not be European Americans. Is that fair to
Right.
say?
I think it's very fair to say that we should be very concerned about what we're hearing from the Trump administration and the White House by his executive orders, by his wacky tweets, by his accusations that are unsubstantiated. I think we have a psychologically damaged narcissist in the White House, and there are things that we need to watch out for because of that.
Well, let's talk about the fact, though, that he did win, and as a result, he is our president. And so the question becomes, how does California, how does Los Angeles work with the administration? Because in the end, look, the city, the county, the state gets a lot of federal funding, and he's made a lot of threats about withdrawing federal funding for issues relating to immigration or marijuana or whatever it may be. So what do we do?
Well, I think threats are one thing, and then follow-throughs are another. And I think that we have to hold our ground and make sure that the administration in Washington, D.C. understands that Los Angeles is a city of compassion, and we are a city of tolerance, and we welcome everyone. And also, we have certain rights. We have constitutional rights, and we have state rights.
Right.
And I think that we really need to work together collectively as never before at every level, and go on the offensive if we have to make sure that we assert those rights on who we are, and not let anyone, no matter who occupies the White House, let anyone trample on those rights and harm us as individuals and as a community.
I remember at the end of the Bush administration, as well as the beginning of the Obama administration, there had been a big push to revitalize the Los Angeles River. I actually covered that at time and really enjoyed. I did a long half-hour show about the revitalization, but then the recession hit, and it seemed as if the federal government had vanished. And I don't blame them. I mean, those were tough times.
Sure.
But now there's an effort to bring back the revitalization of a river that many people don't even know exists. You're part of that.
Sure, yeah. We have struggled in the past with getting adequate resources for what we want to accomplish at the river. I chair the Arts, Parks, and LA River Committee on the City Council.
Nice.
So the really great news is that my chief initiative at the river, which is enhanced infrastructure financing, it's called an Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District, EIFD, that has moved forward since I introduced the first motion in late 2014. We are now poised to adopt that financing mechanism for the Los Angeles River in the city of LA, and that's 31 miles of monies coming into the rehabilitation of the LA River.
And I want to ask about that because, as I understand it, you're able to siphon, if I can use that word, money from the increase in property tax
Right.
revenue. It's tax increment.
That's right.
That's the formula that was popular during redevelopment.
Yes.
And so I'm wondering, how are you able to do that? Because redevelopment's gone. We can't siphon that. What's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
So the community redevelopment agencies were shut down
Right.
under Governor Brown.
Right.
But the funding mechanism is exactly the same. It's tax increment financing.
Right.
So what you do is you take a future increase in incremental dollars collected, and you allocate a small percentage of those future increases to be reinvested right back within a geographic area.
And you can do that? Is that a
It's
county law?
It's a state law.
A state law.
A state
Thank you,
law
sir.
that went into effect in January of 2015.
I understand.
The moment Governor Brown signed it into law in, I think it was October or September of 2014, I dropped a motion that said, let's do one at the river. And so we're poised. The report is done. We adopted
Right.
it through committee and council. And we're now adopting a framework for EIFDs across the city.
So when do
but
we-
the river is going to be the first one.
So when do we get the money? When does the money come in?
As soon as we effectuate the actual plan and we set up the administrative,
Right.
I guess, arrangements.
I understand.
To start collecting those monies, and then we'll be in business. My belief and my goal is to have the EIFD functioning off the ground, monies being collected within 1 calendar year from now.
How much do we expect to be brought in?
Well, in the study that I commissioned,
Please.
1 mile on either side of the river for 31 miles, about $50 million per year.
That's real.
Okay, that's real money that can be used for habitat restoration, infrastructure improvements, and low and moderate income housing.
I wonder, the president has talked about wanting to invest in infrastructure. We don't know what that looks like. It doesn't seem like HighSpeed Rail is part of that plan, but could we leverage the $50 million with the president's desire to invest in infrastructure?
It depends on how serious the administration is and Congress is about actually doing a robust infrastructure plan for the whole United States and how that will manifest itself in the city of Los Angeles. But the good thing about EIFDs is that it's independent of anything Washington decides to do or not do. This is a local solution and a state solution for a local improvement.
If you go to San Antonio, if you go to, I think it's Milwaukee, they have rivers. And what I love about those rivers is they have restaurants and you sit and you enjoy a meal. But it's hard to open restaurants in Los Angeles.
Yes, it is.
And you're looking to make it a little easier.
Right.
Tell us about that, sir.
So last summer, I introduced my Open for Business initiative, and it turned out being a series of 9 council motions.
Oh, really?
That were approved yesterday, or Tuesday rather, by the full city council. And they seek to do the following. They will reconfigure the permitting process for all businesses based on square footage. Instead of one lump sum and for fees, they'll be based on square footage, so the fees can actually be reduced
But
for
what
getting
about,
permits.
in our final moments, this whole notion of regulatory malaise?
Well, the years have gone by, and
Right.
one regulation has been imposed on another in a vacuum, essentially. So what the Open for Business seeks to do is break through all of that so that all the city departments are in the business of supporting our small businesses, and we also go from a zoning administrator hearing to just making an administrative sign-off for businesses that have been functioning well with no complaints,
Right.
so that every 5 or 10 years their permit can be renewed without exorbitant costs and fees.
And you'll come back and talk more about that. He is Mitch
Yes.
O'Farrell. I'm Brad Pomerance. You're watching us on Local Edition.